Fellow citizens, my name is Awolich, a member of the People's Coalition for Civil Action, PCCA. Today is the 16th of January, 2025. This message is coming to you in relation to the massacre of innocent South Sudanese people in Wad Medani. Yesterday or the day before, videos and horrific images of innocent civilians who were farm workers in the Sudanese Al Jazeera state were rounded up on the farms, sat down, and sprayed with bullets. Some were slaughtered by elements affiliated with the Sudan Armed Forces under General Al-Burhan. These images and reports of massacre have triggered fury and anger among ordinary South Sudanese people. This anger is justifiable. This anger is understandable. And the questions being asked about what led to this and what should be done now going forward are legitimate questions. The people of South Sudan are justified to be angry because their fellow citizens have been killed inhumanely. And this is not the first time this has happened. Since the beginning of this war, innocent South Sudanese people have been killed, both by RSF and Sudan Armed Forces and their affiliated militias. We also know that innocent Sudanese people in Darfur and all over the country have been killed by all parties on different sides of the conflict in Sudan. The PCCA condemned strongly the recent massacre of our civilians in Wad Medani, and we stand in solidarity with the families, communities, and relatives of the victims of this massacre. We also stand in solidarity with the people of South Sudan as a whole, who have been let down by their own government to take dangerous journeys to broken countries like Sudan to seek safety and make a living. We also stand in solidarity with innocent Sudanese people who have been failed by their own leaders, by their own country, and have had to seek safety and security within the borders of South Sudan. Right now we are hearing reports of protests and riots in Juba, and most likely to spread to other cities and towns across South Sudan. And it is because of that rioting and protesting that we deliver this message. First, it is a right, a constitutional right of any citizens to protest, especially when injustice has been committed. And when the citizens see that the government is not doing what is right to serve the interests of its citizens, citizens have a right to protest. However, we are concerned that some of these riots and some of these protests may target innocent Sudanese people who have come to seek refuge in South Sudan. We are appealing to you, fellow citizens, that their lives should be spared They are innocent. They have nothing to do with the actions of armed militias in their own countries. They came there just like our people have gone to Sudan, to Ethiopia, to Uganda, to Kenya, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and maybe to Central African Republic to seek refuge. So these people should be protected. We should offer them support, accommodate them, share with them whatever little we have. They are victims of a failed system, just like our own people are victims of a failed system. Let us direct our anger and our protest to the right places. And there are two places where this anger should be directed. One, we have to direct our anger toward the Sudan Armed Forces under General Burhan, who executed our citizens, innocent civilians, in cold blood. We are justified to protest against the Sudanese government based in Port Sudan under General Burhan for failing to protect our citizens and for executing our innocent civilians. This anger would be justified. A protest against Sudan Armed Forces would be justified. We should also direct our anger toward the government in Juba for 2 or 3 reasons. First, it were the actions of the current actors in the revitalized government of national unity who triggered violence, political violence, repressive political violence in 2013, repeated the same in 2016, and have since failed to implement the provisions of the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan. They have instead chosen to stay in power at the expense of all of us. It is the actions of these elements who are controlling government that have failed our people as to seek refuge in Sudan, which is actively engaged in a brutal war. Second, the government knows that the system in Khartoum has collapsed and there was no state to provide protection to our citizens in the Sudan. And they failed to take action, appropriate action, to guarantee safe return of our people, and have failed to give our citizens returning from Sudan necessary provisions, humanitarian provisions, to enable them to settle peacefully and livably with their families. And so some of them had to return to Sudan to make a living in order to keep their families fed and housed. Third, even after repeated episodes of innocent South Sudanese people being slaughtered in Khartoum by Sudan Armed Forces and also by the RSF, the government in Juba has not taken any action or has not called to attention of the warring parties in Sudan not to touch our citizens. Instead, the government has been busy trying to reopen the pipeline with people who are bent on killing our own citizens. So they are prioritizing the opening of pipeline to continue to fatten their bank accounts while our citizens are being consumed by uncontrollable violence both in Sudan and South Sudan. These are the people toward whom we should direct our anger and protest. And any protest against the government of Sudan and against the government of South Sudan, demanding answers for the killing of our citizens and demanding the safe return of the remaining South Sudanese in Sudan, and the repatriation of the bodies of our fellow citizens that have fallen under these humiliating elements are questions that we must ask and must demand answers from both governments. And so protests toward this, the government of South Sudan and the Sudan Armed Forces are legitimate. And PCCA stand in solidarity with the people of South Sudan, raising questions about this. We consider ourselves a nation because we care about each other. And so the fact that our people are being killed should warrant outrage among all the citizens of South Sudan. We have to protect each other, we have to care for each other, and we must be the guarantors of security to each other. But we must do this in the right way, by not targeting innocent people who are equally victims of failed governments in their own countries, just like our people are. So we have to restrain. And so, fellow citizens, going forward, we encourage you to protest, to raise questions, and to demand answers, and to raise the stake that the killing of South Sudanese is not allowed and must be ceased. And this message must be made clear. But we are not going to seek revenge against innocent victims of the Sudanese conflict in our country. We should not do that, because we have millions of our own citizens in Sudan, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Uganda, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and in the Central African Republic, and all over the world. We should be sympathetic to people seeking refuge, because almost all of us were once refugees in their countries. It's time for us to return the favor by taking good care of our fellow men and fellow humans. And to conclude, fellow citizens, this is a learning moment. This is a moment for us to seize, to begin to hold our own government accountable. This failed system cannot sustain us, cannot carry us forward. We have to demand more. We have to demand actions that are geared toward protection of innocent civilians, both in our country and outside the borders of our country. This is our duty as citizens. We should not allow the selfishness of few individuals to hold our country hostage forever. We must free ourselves. And this is a moment to do what we need to do to hold the government in Juba accountable for failing to protect us. We stand with you. We stand in solidarity with the grieving families, and we stand in solidarity with the people of Sudan who are also subjected to repression, and some are being subjected to genocide. We stand in solidarity with them. And we stand in solidarity with the people of South Sudan who are raising questions about continuing killing of our innocent civilians. This is what citizens do. But we will not support any actions that seek revenge and repression against innocent Sudanese people. Continue focus on the need for a sustainable peace in our country. Remain committed to change. and demand democratic transition in our country, remain committed to demand an end to endless transitions, and we have to move toward establishing a permanent constitution, a sustainable peace, an economy that serves the people of South Sudan all, and a security that reflects the faces of South Sudanese people, and that gives us protection, regardless of our ethnic communities and our places of origin. Thank you very much.